Tallboys and Trackmasters is brought to you by Expert Exhaust. Expect more for your money. MTB Shock Dock, your choice for suspension needs. High Gear Success. From helping racers get sponsored to motorsports event operation and promotion, shift your passion into high gear. Miracle Works Detailing. No cars too dirty. And by Cycle Mart, your motorcycle parts store. So I need to switch up to some light here.
Truly is a tale as old as time. Whatever gets you to look cool.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you so much for tuning in tonight for episode 53 of Tallboys
And Trackmasters.
You might want to save some turtles there.
Yeah,
and take that
I'll make sure I cut it up. Don't worry. What's new, buddy?
Oh, just trying to survive. Took a week off and got some stuff done. I'm on vacation this week and was really bummed out because I was trying to get to Kane Wagner's Fool's Ride this past weekend. Signed up for that and ended up with pneumonia. You can probably kind of hear me still wheezing and not really sounding the best. So that was fun. How about you?
How on earth did you end up with pneumonia? Young, healthy guy like you.
You think that I'm smoking Camel One filters 24 hours a day.
And,
Newports.
Newports.
No, not doing that. I'm not smoking at all. So I don't know, man. Just might have something to do with having 3 kids that constantly bring stuff home from school or daycare.
That's probably not it. It's probably a workers' comp claim. You need to
that sounds good.
Use your noggin.
I like that. Yeah. Well, we appreciate you all tuning in, and I want to go ahead and apologize for Facebook deciding to no longer allow groups to have streaming privileges to them anymore. So we'll get that straightened up and taken care of here this coming week and switch things over to a profile so that Zuckerberg is happy and will allow us to continue this. So that was kind of a bad situation.
Very,
to start
very
with.
unfortunate chain of events.
Hey, we got shirts, boys.
I was going to say, however, on a positive note, we do have shirts.
They're pretty comfy. What do you think? You like them?
Yeah, I like them.
I think they're good enough to offer to our loving, endearing fans out there.
Yeah, I think all 5 of them would be very interested.
Well, we'll put that up here soon and take some orders for that. So excited for that. Hey, you know what I'm excited about? I'm excited to do this interview with Ryan Melton here this evening. We want to thank him for coming on with us. Ryan is a sales guy down at AOMC in Charleston. So it'd be cool to see his insight on the industry these days. He's also got a pretty popular YouTube channel, MXG.
Yeah, so I was checking out some of his videos earlier this week.
Yeah, really, really good stuff on there. So without further ado, let's bring on Ryan. What's going on, man?
What's up, guys? James, Trevor, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for letting us sit down and waste a Tuesday evening with you.
It's okay. My kids go to bed at 8, so it's just cutting into a little Netflix time, which I probably isn't good for me anyway, right?
Fair. Awesome, buddy. Well, we'll just kind of get started from the beginning of how I come to know you a little bit. I think that's a good story. So I was kind of in the market there about 2 or 3 years back for a kind of a beater adventure bike, and I see this Kawasaki Versys 650 with knobbies pop up for sale on Marketplace. I'm like, yeah, that's right up my alley. I like oddball and stuff that's probably not meant to go off road. And I was like, man, I got to message this guy and see if he'll take some less money on it. So, we went back and forth a little bit, me and you, and I think we couldn't agree on a price. And but I always had that in the back of my mind, like, man, that might be a viable option for me. So ended up finding another one down the road in Richmond and picked that thing up, which I still have. But after that, it was kind of weird. I started seeing your YouTube channel, and I saw some videos of the verse. It's like, wait a minute, that's the same guy that I talked to on Facebook Marketplace
That's the
and
guy I just
lowballed the hell
lowballed.
back at. But
That's
I,
the guy that just cussed me out on Facebook Marketplace.
but come to find out that you're not really that far away from us down in Charleston. So yeah, man, really really cool and kind of funny how a Facebook Marketplace post can kind of bring some people together. So I always thought that was hilarious. So
Totally.
obviously you're down in Charleston, but where were you born and raised at, bub?
So I was born in Charleston and raised right here in Putnam County. Graduated from Winfield High and Marshall University. So I'm West Virginia, Appalachia through and through, man.
Sweet.
Love to see it.
Yeah. Um, how did you get your start into motorcycles? Because I know talking with you there a little bit before we were doing the episode this week, you said you got like over 30 bikes now. So that's a passion that's got to be bred into you, right?
Oh yeah, man. So it's kind of weird. I didn't really. I kind of grew up on a farm, and we had some land, and so I always kind of rode four wheelers or something like that. But I didn't get into dirt bikes until I was like 14 years old, and started kind of racing motocross and got the bug. And next thing you know, the stick and ball sports all got cast aside, and it was nothing but eat, sleep, breathe motocross racing for like the next 15 years. That's all I did. No other aspect of motorcycling whatsoever. Had to be jumping, had to be motocross. But that led me down the road to find all the other, motorcycle passions I have. So it was worth it. But uh, yeah, it was all motocross.
That's kind of similar how I started out as well. Used to race Pyramid Valley up here right off of I-79 all the time, and that
Absolutely.
kind of transitioned into off-road racing with GNCC and hare scrambles, and then when I figured out that I got too many kids to go fast and job and responsibilities, and that transferred into dual sport riding. So, yeah, that's kind of a similar path
Yeah.
there.
Now here we are.
Yeah,
I didn't really get into riding until I was probably 22, 23. Um, I've only really been riding regularly since probably 2018 or so.
Nice. Never too late.
no,
No, I'm glad I started when I did.
yeah, that's definitely a theme that we've touched on a lot. Is you're
Yeah.
never too late to get started into riding or racing or
Yep.
what have you. Ryan, what was your first motorcycle, man?
So my first motorcycle was a 2001 KX 125.
Oh,
So the way
nice.
it all kind of started was we were at the Putnam County Fair one year, and the motocross races came on, right? While my little brother, I didn't really catch the bug, but he kind of caught the bug watching the races, and he told my dad, he was like, "Hey, I want a dirt bike." So my dad goes out and gets him a TTR 90. Now I'm like 14 at this time, right? So when he's not on that TTR 90, I was on that TTR 90, and I was like, wait a second, this is a blast. And so then I told Dad, I was like, I want a dirt bike, and he took me down to the Harley Davidson Kawasaki shop in South Charleston, and we got a brand new '01 KX 125, all green with a little bit of purple, and that. I remember that wasn't like jetted right off the showroom. It would foul plugs every time I would shut it off. But that's what started the whole thing for me, man.
That's awesome, bud. Yeah, KX 125. That's a hell of a bike to start out on.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember I have this hayfield below my house, and I was just down there, and luckily I had this huge area because I've been riding the TTR 90, and I'd never rode a bike with a clutch, and I'm just like watching my hand and trying to release, and I had this big area to learn on, and luckily, but yeah, it's a heck of a bike to start on.
Yeah, it always seems like it's Z50s or TTRs or something of that sort. But
Yep.
I got a friend of mine whose first motorcycle he ever had and learned how to ride on was an old XL 500. His dad's motto was, I'm going to buy you one bike for your entire life, and you're never getting another one. So he's not going to waste money. It's kind of funny to see who's everybody's different starting bikes.
If you're going to start them out on a 500, start them young, so you got time to make a second one if things don't go right.
Yeah. What, so did you start out trail riding a little bit, or was it all just motocross, jumping, that type of thing?
Man, I had like a couple hay fields behind my house, and I kind of would make kind of like a turn track. And, that lasted months. And then, we're out there with shovels building jumps.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And the next thing my dad was all into it. And the next thing like, we happened to have a farm bulldozer and he was renting equipment. We were, we built 2 tracks here at my house. And it was just, it kind of goes on from there. We were 100% in.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, did you when did your racing career start with motocross?
I started in, really in '02 probably. Um, '01, '02 doing like Milton, Air Mountain, um, Pyramid Valley, just local stuff like that. And then we did that for probably a year. And then somebody invited us, somebody we met there invited us to a mega series race. They said, you got to come down to Muddy Creek for a mega series race. And I'm like, that sounds scary, like mega series. And we go down there, and I can remember we pulled into the track in the motorhome, and we had an old motorhome and a box trailer, and we pulled in, and it was too dark. And I woke up the next morning. I remember just opening my camper door and seeing this huge track throughout the whole valley with manicured grass and just this amazing facility. And it was so intimidating.
Oh
And
yeah.
from then on, we pretty much only did mega series stuff from there on out, and just hit Milton on some Friday nights and stuff. But I remember that so vividly.
I got a similar story to that. We, like I said, I kind of started out motocross as well. We were doing arena cross and everything else that was out there, jumping wise. But I
Sure.
remember one weekend we loaded up the conversion van in the box trailer and got to Tomahawk, and it was like right when it first opened. And similar thing, we come there in the middle of the night, you couldn't really see what was going on. I remember getting out of the conversion van and looking around there, and I think by the time I woke up, like the 250s were practicing. I'm seeing these guys clear these giant triples, tabletops. I'm like, yeah,
Yep.
I'm way in over my head on my little RM 125 out here.
Mhm.
But that can be intimidating to a new person seeing something like that. But you got to stick with it and do your best there. So,
Absolutely.
um, any any funny racing stories or anything like the injuries or anything like that starting out?
Man, a ton of injuries, that's for
Oh yeah.
sure.
That's a
I had
given.
some bad ones, man, and I've been reflecting on them just here over the last few months, as I have, I have a 5-year-old that's just getting into riding, and I'll be honest, dude, it's really starting to mess with my head a little bit. Starting to wonder, what my parents were thinking, and kind of if the motocross side of it is worth it or not. But yeah, I mean, I'll just tell you a few bad ones. I was up at Newcomerstown, Ohio for the last ever ride day at Scenic Highlands. And if you've never been there, it was a lot like Muddy Creek. Just a beautiful place, was up really high, beautiful view. This was the last practice day ever, and we were all pushing hard. And I remember getting so tired that day, and it was like one more lap, one more lap, one more lap. And I had told myself one more lap, and I woke up in a helicopter.
Oh shit!
Yep.
And yeah, man, I
Oh,
broke a couple ribs, punctured a lung, broke my collarbone. Man, I hit the ground so hard my goggle lens popped out and cut my eye open. Luckily, there was a doctor at the track that kind of knew, my lung was collapsed, and they flew me to Akron General, and I spent a week or so there. But I remember I have a couple wrecks like that, and my little brother would be with me, and he would, there's a couple times he wasn't even old enough to drive, but he had to drive to the hospital, just no other choice. So
Yeah,
just some funny stuff like that. And I had a few, I completely tore out my elbow, Loretta's regional in '04. Like I was so mad. I'd got a fourth and a fifth in the first 2 motos, which was actually good enough to put me in second going into the third moto. And I just had to get like a top 12, and I would have been in. And
Yeah.
I hyperextended my elbow and just completely shredded it. And luckily, I didn't have any injuries that are like hampering me too much now, But man, I easily could have.
You're really fortunate in that regard.
Yeah, I feel like I am, and I don't know if I want to roll those dice with my kids or not.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then maybe one other funny story is we went down to Atlanta Supercross in '09, right? And I had two '09 pretty much brand new KX 450Fs in the back of my F350. And we'd been to a few supercrosses and arena crosses that year, and we always park valet in the parking garage, right? And it was full. So I had to park across the street from the Marriott it was in a public parking space, but it was well lit, and it was had cameras, and there was like a concert bus across the street with armed guards and stuff. I thought, man, I'm good. And I even went out at midnight to check on it. I come back the next morning at like 7 or 8 a.m. My whole truck's gone.
Oh,
Bikes, man. I thought I'd been towed. I called every tow yard, in the place, and I ended up getting to see it on camera. They got in my truck and drove away in my whole truck, dude. I had like knee braces and Liat. These are when like the Liat neck braces just came out, and like they took my whole truck, both bikes, all the gear, my school books, everything, and they ended up ditching the truck on the side of the road the next day. But I never saw the bikes or all the gear again. I remember Geico wrote me a check for like $90. And
What?
yeah, they wouldn't cover anything that wasn't bolted down, and they
Yeah.
would only cover up the $90 of stuff in the truck. And I remember thinking, dude, I think I had sunglasses in that truck that were worth more than $90. Like, it's just, I don't know, that's something. And I haven't been back to Atlanta for a Supercross since. Like,
Yeah, those bikes were in somebody's basement getting spray painted with a black rattle can within, an hour of them getting a hold of your truck.
for
I tell you
sure,
what,
dude.
that is something that's just like sickening to most
Yep.
people in the sport, I think. And I know anytime I see that on social media where somebody's post up a thing about a bike being stolen, especially in our area, I make sure to share that as soon as I can, because I haven't had that happen to me personally, but I have seen it. Friends of mine, really
Yeah.
close friends of mine. Two quick stories. One of our local pro guys, Ryan Eccles, he actually works for GNCC now. He had a YZ250F in the bed of his truck right here in Fairmont that got stolen, and I think it was like Tuesday before the snowshoe GNCC. This thing got stolen, and we scoured all over the county trying to find it, and there was rumors of it being seen in a riding area up our way. So I know him and old John Melton went there to see if they could find it, and the guy comes riding up to him on it and says, "Hey, you guys want to buy a 250F for $1,000? I need some money."
Oh
So they
my
knocked the
God.
guy off the bike, zip tied his hands behind his back, and threw him in the bed of the Ford Ranger and drove him to the police station. And
Wow.
that 250F was so rad because from here in Fairmont to where that riding area is about 17 miles of just straight 2-lane blacktop. So I remember we drug that thing back to Dad's shop, just did a quick maintenance over it as fast as we could to get the thing ready for the snowshoe GNCC. And Ryan actually got second in the pro lights class on that thing. And there was a little story with that called "Ride It Like You Stole It." So that was always
Yeah,
a
that's a
good time.
happy ending.
Yeah, and then our buddy Fred, his boy Mikey,
Yeah.
guy in Akron, Ohio, wanted to buy his 250F, and basically it was a stage deal where he brought the bike to a certain location, they unloaded it, had a couple $100 bills stuck in an envelope, the rest of it was fake, and the kid rode off with it and had people opening up doorways of alleys and
Yep.
everything else, and he was gone. So
Yep.
it's unfortunate, man. Hate to
Seems
see
like
it.
it's getting worse too.
It is.
It is.
Yeah, it is. I got no tolerance for theft, and yeah, I think you're right. It's just getting worse.
Well, let's let's talk about the YouTube channel here a little bit, Bud, because I know that's something that it's very popular, especially in our area. And I know it seemed like recently, like TikTok was really a big thing for you. It seemed like you were getting blown up on there, and I really liked how you were doing that where people were asking, general industry questions or, bike tips and that kind of thing. And it was TikTok a good format to do that and respond to people and help them out?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's really what helped TikTok blow up was the ease of replies to specific comments. That's got to be it. That and COVID for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
As far as the YouTube channel, I kind of give you, a little tale on how all that happened. Um, Before I was working in the electrical hall for a while, and I would work for 2 or 3 months and then be laid off for 2 or 3 months, right? I was a construction wireman, job to job. And during my layoff time, I would be at my small shop selling parts and accessories, or I'd be working on stuff in the garage, right? And I thought, man, I'm just going to, if I'm doing this work anyway, and I have a GoPro right here, I'm just going to set it up and film it anyway. Because one, it documents that I did the work, because every once in a while you have that crazy customer that's like, oh, you didn't actually change my fork seals. I
that's
had
a
that
good
one time, so now I zip tie all my fork seals to the fork lug when I give them back to the customer, just so they can't say anything. But I thought, yeah, one, it documents my work. Two, when I started that, it was kind of like four strokes still confused a lot of people. And I thought, man, if this helps somebody, if they forget where a part goes, I've been helped by these a lot. Let's just go ahead and film it and throw it up. And then three, if I get the views, it might be a little extra change in my pocket, right? And I started putting those up and people started watching them. I have no idea why. I think the first video on my channel was like changing the coolant on a YZ85. I mean, literally, I was pouring some bottled water through the radiator, just flushing it and then putting coolant, random stuff. So I put that stuff up and it always did good. And then I thought, you know what? I want to start saving my riding footage mainly for myself. Like, so I have it free YouTube storage. So I started putting that up and people started watching that too. And I'm like, okay, I'm not that fast, like weird, but
yeah,
I'm going to keep putting it up. Right.
yeah,
And, that YouTube grind, everybody likes that passive income for YouTube. And I did that for years and I watched the channel grow, but man, so slow, such a slow growth. And then COVID happened and TikTok happened. And for whatever reason, I don't know if I just got there early or I just had, just enough attitude or whatever. But right around COVID, my TikTok kind of blew up. I ran up from like 10,000 to 100,000 followers on there pretty quickly. Um, I think that game is over now.
yeah.
Uh, and I still do the YouTube and I still do the TikTok, but it's like, I used to post like back in the heyday, I was posting like 7 TikToks a day on 2 or 3 different TikTok accounts. And now I post like one every couple days or something. It's just everything's changed with it. It's not what it used to be, but I still love the YouTube grind. I've really been working on X. I really like X because I'm like a reader. Like I prefer text. I know that's kind of weird, but everybody else seems to love Instagram, and I can't stand Instagram. Like I
we're not
love
the
to
only one that
read.
prefers text to video
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah, like
Kind of-
Instagram drives me nuts because I'm scrolling and I only get to see like one picture on my screen at a time.
Yep.
And like, I don't know, I like to be able to see like 10 texts at one time. So I've really been working on X and I like that. And of course, they're trying to make it a platform for free speech, which I'm really into. So
Yep.
I've been digging it, and YouTube seems to be on the up recently. Mine's kind of messy because I do have so many different hobbies and passions. You'll see me like I'll throw up motocross footage. I'll throw up like tips or tricks. Then the next day I'll have like a dual sport video, and then I'll have a single track video. And I don't think I'm niched down quite as far as I would be, but at this point, I don't care. I just put what I like, and
Yeah.
if they watch it, great. If they don't, who
See,
cares?
that's exactly how I do mine as well, and I'm just going to put up what I like, and I really don't care that a dual sport ride video only gets a couple hundred views. Like that's what I like to do. one thing that I really do like and appreciate about your channel is documenting just a group of your buddies going out and just riding single track or what have you, because I think in a lot of ways that's kind of a dying art form of just guys getting together, being dudes out in the woods, ragging on each other. "Hey, can you hit this line? Let me hit this line," that type of thing. And I also know that there's a lot of people that can't do that anymore, so they try to live vicariously through people like you that
Yep.
post that footage up. And some of those creek videos that you put up, man, that's some great looking riding, some awesome stuff down that way.
Yeah, and so that's I use if I'm dual sporting or adventure riding, I use the Cardos
Yeah,
and try to record the conversation. And a lot of my buddies don't get it. And I'm like, guys, the writing's cool, but the conversation, the camaraderie, the jokes, um, that really portrays the emotions and how you're feeling, what you're doing. That is more important to me than anything. I think that resonates with some people, and it's just a cool memory to have on your
yeah,
channel. To bring up the versus, I have a series of versus videos from like Swiss and Laurel Creek and Panther Mountain, I think, where me and my buddy Mike, we went up there on the Africa Twin and the versus 650 on a day that it was way muddier, and we should have realized how muddy it was, and we damn near got stuck up there.
yeah,
It was muddy, and I was pushing the versus, and we're not sure if we're going to get that fat, tall Africa Twin back up
yeah.
out of that place. And I mean, a couple times we were almost to the point, I mean, grown men almost to the point of tears, trying to get these bikes out of there. And that's the kind of memories I just want to save.
Oh yeah, that's great stuff. We actually got to ride Swiss a couple weeks ago. Me and Tyler Vincent, and another buddy of ours, Justin. That's an excellent place to take a dual sport in. And
Oh
yeah, I'd
yeah.
like to take my versus in there one time. That'd be fun.
I'd like to watch you take your verses.
Oh, you see me.
Do it when it's dry.
Yeah, we went
Yeah.
through there, and it wasn't really muddy, but it was starting to get a little wet and up that way. But we were all on. I was on my 500 EXC, and Tyler was on his Beta and stuff. It was good riding up in that way though.
Dude, we were going through there and there were some loggers and they just stopped and looked at us like we were aliens and like
Yep.
they were
And
like, "What are you
there's our
guys
map,
doing
like,
back
how'd you
here on
get
those
here?
bikes today?" Like nutty.
So obviously, you know, doing what you do, you have a huge fleet of motorcycles, and I'd like to talk on that a little bit. I know you've kind of got a whole gamut of stuff out there. What are some of your favorite ones in the bunch that you like to ride a lot? I know, obviously the Versus is one for me, but I also like the KX252 stroke that you kind of take out a good bit on single track stuff. That's one of my favorite ones too. What's some of your favorites?
So let's start with the KX250 stories. Um I have 3 of those things, guys. '07s, last year they were made, and that was the last, '05 or '07. Those were the last years I was really racing a 252 stroke, and I have the last one I had, and then there was this period around like '08, '09 where you could buy blown up last gen 252 strokes for like, I think I bought one of them for $700 and the other for $500. I mean, you can never do that now. Even blown up, people want 2 grand for them,
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
All day.
or they'll just rebuild them and sell them for 3 or 4 grand. But so I just grabbed these, and they set for a while, and I fixed them, and I had 3 of them. And people are begging me to sell them, and I'm like, Dan, I just can't. It's the last year they're made. I just can't.
Yeah.
So what do you do with 3 of them, right? So I had one set up for moto. I had one that was pristine off the floor, had never even had the head or anything taken off of it, like 20 hours on it. I knew I wasn't going to ride that one. And then I had a third one, and I was like, this is about the time I started working at AOMC, and I got I got interested in single track. And I thought, you know what? I don't really have 10 grand right now to go get a KTM.
Yeah.
Can I make this KX into a viable single track bike? And, surprisingly enough, you don't have a lot of stuff to choose from, but it makes a pretty damn good single track bike once you do a flywheel weight, a recluse, oversized
Yep.
tank. So, I did that, and I rode single track on that thing for a year. I went and raced I won the C class. I'd never raced off road before, so I go to Burning Rock. I sign up in the C class on the KX and beat all the new KTM's and betas and everything.
Oh, that's a
And
good deal.
yeah, it was awesome. I rode that KX, and like you could go to an off road race on that thing and not see a single other person on a KX 250,
Yep.
which is pretty cool. So
Yeah,
I
that
did that for a year before I got a KTM. It was really fun. I'll probably never sell any of those KXs, honestly. But besides that, I did end up getting a 2018 KTM 300XC, which I really love because it's it's the last year of the carburetor, electric start with backup kick. So it's kind of like that sweet spot.
Yep.
I like that thing. My main moto ride is a 2023 KTM 450 SXF. I got a bunch of random dual sports. I basically spent my 20s wheeling, dealing, sacrificing, buying blown up stuff. I had this like phobia that I was going to have a bike blow up or break down, and one day I wouldn't have a bike to ride. And this phobia caused me to basically just collect all these bikes. And I'm at the point now, Krista's probably going to kill me if I get any more. I just I finally got my dream dual sport there a couple weeks ago, Husky 701.
Oh,
That put me up to like 28 or 29 bikes or something. I have to quit. I've got to quit.
I felt bad for having 4.
Yeah.
So I know I've seen a lot of videos recently. What, you got a CRF 250L as well?
That is Krista's bike. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we keep that for her. But so I actually did some dual sport on that last month because what was it? Because my DR was down. I was rebuilding the shock on my DR. And so all I had was the 250L, and I was like, I'm going riding. And I had ridden it some, don't get me wrong, but I hadn't really taken it out for a day of dual sporting to really see what it was capable of, and it surprised the hell out of me.
There for about a 2-year period, one of the guys we ride with, AJ, had a 250L. I had a KLX 250, and we took those bikes in places they were never intended to ever end up. I mean, it was really fun. I still have my KLX today, and it's a really fun bike to just wring the the guts out of to get every last fraction of a horsepower out of it.
Yeah, you can ride that thing like a dirt bike. It's really wild. The
cheap
way I
off.
kind of described it in my videos is like it's the perfect dual sport if you don't care about that power tool. If you don't care about being able to lighten the front end at the flick of your wrist,
Yep.
it's perfect. And it's probably the bike that a lot of people should be riding,
I
and
thought that too. I know there's a lot of people that really just do a lot of gravel and stuff like that trend straight to a KTM 500 or something, which they're great bikes. I have a KTM 350 that I love. I have it set up for woods and more technical stuff, but for a lot of people that aren't super serious about riding off road, the CRF 300L now, the KLX 300, a bike like that's a lot better suited. They're a lot cheaper to operate. The maintenance schedules are certainly a lot more forgiving.
Yeah.
Sure.
Our buddy Tom King just picked up that KLX 300, and
I need to ride that.
Well, we were setting up our training course, which for those watching, we got a dual sport and adventure training class this weekend, Saturday at 10 a.m. at Tom's house in Mannington. Anyway, I got to throw a leg over his 300, and it was just such a fun little experience. It's like this thing is so torquey, and it's not really porky, but the suspension is really good on it. And I was just throwing it around like it was a unicycle. I loved it. It was such a fun experience.
I've been scouring eBay for engines out of wrecked KLX 300s. Also been kicking around the idea of throwing a 300 cylinder and piston in mine, just to tool around with. But
that 701 sweet though, ain't it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's ultimate, man. That's been my dream bike for a long time. I actually have a little story about the 701 too, if you got a second.
Yeah, buddy, go ahead.
So, this 701 that I ended up with, I started working for AOMC in 2019, and this 701 was there when I started there, right? It was specifically built by the salesman at the time, Mike Clendenin, for the 2018 Snowshoe Adventure Rally. And he put, I think it's MST that makes the rally kit. It's like a
Yeah.
$2,500 rally
Yep.
kit and tower. But we were selling those on the AOMC website at one point, just AOMC branded rally kit. So he put that on there. Wings exhaust, it had a GPS and bark busters and loaded down with P3 stuff. And it was sitting there when I got there, and I had been into adventure biking and dual sporting from the DR and the Versus, and just had really gotten the bug pretty hard. And I was just learning the KTM side of things, and I wanted this thing so bad. And at the time, I was eating, I was broke, and this thing sat there forever because he basically put so much money so much of stuff on it that it made the price so high. Nobody could buy it. Nobody wanted to buy it. So it was a 2017 model, and it sat there on the showroom in cross lanes until, I don't know, 2020 or 2021 or something. It was to the point where finally, when somebody bought it, we had to change the fuel injector because it was clogged. It wouldn't even start. And of course, I'm the tech, and I'm seeing the bike I wanted so bad roll in. I have to get it running to give to somebody else, of course, And it turns out the guy that bought it was a close friend to the dealership, and he wrote it. He put like 8,000 miles on it and put a couple little other farkles on it. And he messaged me a few months back, and he was like, listen, I'm not going to ride the road anymore. I'm just going to go back to regular dirt biking. I know you appreciate this thing. If you want it, I'll give you a deal on it. He did give me a good deal. I couldn't pass it up. And it's just really cool to me that I ended up with it. So it's another one that I'll probably never part with.
That's great, buddy. We, obviously you with AOMC, you are knee deep in the market trends and everything that are going on in the dirt bike industry right now. So I would definitely be curious to get your opinion on where the market is right now. Is motorcycling as a whole sort of on a downward slope where we're not getting as much younger people into the sport? Is it kind of maintaining the same status as it has been? I'd really like to get your opinion on that.
Well, we got a absolute explosion during COVID.
Yeah.
That everybody knows. People.
Demonstrated by the price of used bikes.
Oh yeah. The price of used bikes was absolutely nuts. And you couldn't hardly get new bikes. I mean,
Couldn't get
I
parts.
remember for like 2 years at our dealership, there was a waiting list, and you put your name on the list, and we called you when the bike came in, and the price was the price. There was no haggling. It was just MSRP. Um, that whole time was just an explosion. I remember at AOMC when we pick orders and we put them in a bin or take them to shipping. I remember we had to go through the whole shipping and bin department and all the way down the aisles of the showroom between all the bikes, laying orders out on the floor because business was booming so much. It was nutty. So we saw all kinds of people get into motorcycling then. It's obviously that has died off a lot. And it looks like, we've seen kind of a very slow and steady decline as the economy has had a slow and steady decline. I don't think the industry's in danger right now, like the mountain bike industry. Mountain bikes have dropped. The bottom has completely dropped out of that market, in the last 6 months or a year. We're not at that point, but we could definitely use help, or the Fed to lower the interest rates or get some kind of boost going on.
Anything at this point,
Yeah.
we sit and talk about a lot. Young people aren't really getting into, especially the dual sport side of things. You pull up to a hare scramble, there's still a lot of young people that are in the ranks for the race and everything, but it's just such a high starting cost to get into it. And there's not really $1,000 dual sports kicking around out there anymore.
We
Couple
definitely
that with I think as generations go on, people are just getting to be more risk adverse. You kind of get like the bubble wrap kids and people that are afraid to go out and having a, you know, a exciting experience in their life.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple different things we could touch on with that as well. One, I think that motocross bikes have done a disservice to the dirt bike community at large. Uh, Ever since I've been involved, you know, casual riders want to ride motocross bikes
Yep.
and buy motocross bikes, and that is not the bike for them. That's the bike that is expensive to maintain. It's going to be broke all the time. It gets them out of riding. They're more likely to get hurt on it. And I know this wasn't the case in this. I don't think as much in the 70s and 80s, and stuff like that. But these people, I can't tell you how many young kids I know that went out and bought YZ250s or YZ250F, and it stayed broke in their garage all the time. Like those people should be on CRF 230Fs
Yep.
and KLX 300s and XR, stuff like that. That's cheap to maintain and going to run. I think that's been a real issue with getting young people casually riding. And then the other problem is the noise.
Yeah. Yeah. People aren't really, or younger people aren't really interested in like your casual trail bike, like you mentioned, like the 230, the KLX 300 and stuff like that.
It's like it's not cool enough.
Yeah, it's not cool enough.
They want the KTM SX or whatever.
Yeah.
Never mind the fact they can't even operate a clutch. They don't even know how to row through a set of gears on a 1 down 5 up setup. Same way with street bike guys insisting that they gotta start out on 1,000cc GSXR or you're not
guilty.
But
guilty. Wrong move. I should have. And so, real quick again, super quick story here. The reason I got into dual sport and adventure bikes so late in my life, I think, I got once again, don't know what my parents were thinking, but they let me get a brand new Kawasaki Ninja ZX10 2005 when I turned 18. I bought that thing right out of the summer I graduated high school.
I think they wanted rid of you, man.
Yeah, it's starting to sound like it, right? So I mean, this bike would do 102 in first gear. I mean, you guys know. I think the 05 ZX10s are like still the fastest to this day, right?
Yep.
So I had some close calls on it, and I think they knew that I was a pretty conservative kid, and I wasn't going to do anything stupid. And I spent every waking minute on motorcycles, right? But I didn't enjoy that bike. In fact, the more I rode it, the more I hated it. It was uncomfortable. I would ride from my place in Winfield to Marshall to class. And by the time I get to class, my wrists are hurting. My back was hurting. I didn't feel like I could look around and enjoy the ride. And it gave me a really bad taste for street bikes. And then I smacked a deer at 55 miles an hour. And that was the last straw. I was done after that. And it was 10 years before I got back on the street on a motorcycle again. And things started to click like, wait a second, like dual sports, gravel roads, like this is awesome.
Going out exploring. That's kind of my favorite thing about it. It's just as well as I do, there's so much of West Virginia that's unpaved. There's so much that you can just go out, ride for a day and discover stuff that you didn't even know was there. That's by far and above my favorite aspect of it. But
yeah,
agreed.
We've talked about it a bunch. That I think West Virginia is such a hidden gem on this side of the country, especially when it comes to dual sport and adventure bikes. Man, there's so much cool stuff to ride, and like you were saying, Trevor, with the roads being so unimproved in most places, that's perfect dual sport or adventure bike territory for sure.
I agree.
So when I got my first dual sport, so I was a punk, man, as a kid, obviously. I kind of like scoffed at dual sports, kind of laughed at them.
Same here.
Yeah, like why would you want to ride that goofy looking thing? So when I had my small shop and I was laid off for a couple months, I somehow done some kind of trade, got my hands on a YZ250 or something that I needed to get rid of. And the only way I could get rid of it was this guy kept bugging me to trade a KLR 650, right? It was a Gen 1,
Mhm.
99 model. And I said, I finally just kind of threw my hands up and I was like, you know what? You throw $500 on top of it or whatever, and I'll do it. And he brings it up. He came all the way up from Kentucky and brought me this Gen 1. And I hopped on it. I rode around the parking lot and I was like, wait a second. And took it home. Krista hopped on the back. We doubled that thing all around Southern West Virginia that whole summer.
That's
And
so
I
cool.
just absolutely, I felt like I was cheating. So
Yeah.
I'm on these gravel roads in my house and I'm like, I feel like I'm on a big dirt bike. I feel like I'm doing something illegal.
Yep.
Yep.
Like
Oh,
I'm
that's
on a dirt bike on the road, on the gravel, and it feels like I'm riding a trail. And I realized that there's all these gravel roads literally a couple miles from my house, and I don't even know where they go. And I've
Yep.
lived in the same house for 33 years, and I don't even know where they go. And I'm like, it was a whole new world to me. And
Yeah.
I'm still ate up with it.
Yep.
yeah.
That's the beauty of dual sport and adventure riding. Exactly what you said. Roads a couple miles from your house, you've got no idea where they go to. That's such a cool thing to be able to get out and experience.
Yeah, and they're the safest roads.
Yeah.
There's no car. Cars are
Yeah.
going 20.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
you don't have some soccer mom in her GMC Denali or something and coming over in your lane. And yeah, I'm not much for the road.
yeah. There's no
Road.
stoplights, and the rougher the road, the slower the cars are going.
Yep,
Yep.
exactly.
When I see a street bike with street tire, I see a bike that can't take one of those roads. It kind of just makes me sad. I'm like, man, you are missing out. Like
I think
West Virginia
I
is
think about that
full of
a lot.
gravel connectors.
I think about that often. You hear these guys, Harley guys especially, talk about like, oh, it's the freedom of the open road. It's like you haven't experienced freedom until you've had a bike that doesn't even need a road.
Yeah.
You can hop straight off of pavement, and I know there's a spot up in Morgantown. You hop right off of pavement, Star City, right up a hill climb. I mean, immediately. It's
So sick.
really cool
Yeah.
to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, especially if you got a very set up and capable dual sport like
Yep.
your 701 or 350 or something of
Yep.
that sort, where you can literally do any type of motorcycling on that thing if you
Yep.
want.
Yeah, anything. That's what I like about my KTM 350 is it can do single track. It can do. We've done multi-day rides like Coalfields,
Yep.
which mind you, it's not great on blacktop, but it'll do it.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to something we've mentioned several times is instead of trying to have a do-it-all bike, just having one or two, well, two or three bikes that are set up for different purposes,
Yeah.
I think is the way to go.
I think you're a prime example of that. That there's no unicorn
20,
bike that's going to
28
do
bikes
that.
set up for different purposes.
Yeah.
So that it's a blessing and a curse. So I tell people that, I think of my bikes as golf clubs, one
Sure.
for every scenario. However, I have noticed, especially after having kids, that I watch these videos of these other guys that just have one or two bikes, and I can just tell that they get to know that bike
Yep.
way better than I get to know any of my bikes. They know everything about it. And none of my bikes I spend enough time on to really become one with, and I kind of miss that in a way. And I would really want to, I think I'm going to send the Versus down the road and, try to spend a lot of time on the 701 and make it that bike that I really know.
That's a really good platform to
Oh, yeah,
to get to know.
Yeah, you couldn't ask for a better
Yeah.
adventure dual sport bike, honestly.
People used to come in AOMC and they'd be like, they want a 690 and they'd be like, would you get the Supermoto or the Enduro? And I'm like, dude, it's a no-brainer. Like,
Yep.
you can ride the Enduro on the road just as fast with those knobbies,
Yep.
basically, but you can go so many more places. Like, you'd be crazy to get the Supermoto,
Yeah, you
but
go.
it looks, how it looks. And
Yeah.
every time somebody would leave on one of those things, I'd be a little bit sad.
Yeah. It's the beauty of a dual sport is you can go do hooligan stuff anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
where the Supermoto, you're pretty much stuck to pavement, which is unfortunately where the cops hang out.
Yep.
So, something else since we're kind of getting to the end here, you talked about you started making these videos because at the time 4 strokes were somewhat confusing to people. So we kind of went from 2 strokes ruling to 4 strokes to somewhat of a resurgence in 2 strokes, at least in like the hair scramble and enduro side of things. Um, and now kind of shifting, or people claim that we're going to be shifting again to electric bikes. Where do you stand on kind of the future of where things are going?
So, you know, everybody knows me as the electric proponent on TikTok, and I am. I've sung the electric praises for years now. And I just got to be clear, I have 28, 29 bikes, and not one of them is electric. No, none of my motorcycles are electric. I have some bicycles, but I love 2 strokes and I love 4 strokes. And the older I get, the older cool bikes look for me. However, for motocross, and specifically motocross, um, motocross needs electric bikes. I don't know if it will survive without it because of the noise
Yep.
issues. I think that electric could help grow motocross. I dream of a sport where like a single mom can plug in her kid's bike and take it to the track, and as long as there's air in the tires, he's good to go.
It is that is a really good point, because a huge barrier to entry is, like, if you're going to go out and buy KTM or something like that, is you have to have a base level knowledge and understanding of maintenance, and not just simple maintenance for most people either. Like for your average Joe, even a valve check is bordering rocket science. Um, that is one thing that's really attractive to me for electric bikes, is there are no valve checks. You're not changing engine oil every 10 hours. You still have, suspension maintenance, chain maintenance, wheel bearings, etc. But it really seems to simplify things. Fewer moving parts. Your maintenance intervals aren't measured in, tens of hours anymore.
Yeah. So if you don't have if a kid doesn't have a super involved dad or grandfather or someone, or a mom that's just so loaded that things don't matter and she can drop it off at the dealership every Monday, you just can't do it. You can't do it. And so many people, everything's getting smaller. I have a motocross track here at my place, and my motocross track was here first, right? And then they built a subdivision over here, and
Yep.
then a highway here, and now they're building another subdivision over here, and everything's just getting smaller. And the last thing I need is for my 106 decibel bike that my neighbor can hear literally like 3/4 of a mile down the road. My neighbor tells me he can hear me. That's not helping us. That's only hurting us.
Yep.
Kids with these, E2s and E3s and E5s, they can start, in a yard in a neighborhood, and as long as the dust's down, nobody cares. I mean, we've joked that we could have a small supercross race at Laidley Field or Appalachian Power Park with electric, and if we could just, as long as the dust is kept down, nobody's going to care. Nobody would even care. And Laidley Field wants to have a motocross race. They have contacted promoters about doing an arena cross. You could have a huge arena cross race there. The problem with Laidley is that you'd have to put down plywood over the entire field, because they have a very fragile, some kind of layer with the turf or whatever is very fragile. So you have to cover it with plywood, and it's not cost effective. But we could figure out the noise issue and run electric. We could grow the sport and have way more places to ride, and be better for everybody. I don't think, there will be electric dual sports and there will be electric trail bikes. I demoed the Stark for 6 months. I rode it on the trails. It was great. But, when you're dual sporting, you're traveling. The noise
you're covering ground.
Yeah. And even when you're racing a GNCC, like, they're at a GNCC location once a year, but these motocross tracks are getting hammered every weekend with noise, and they're just shutting down, man. They're just all shutting down.
Yeah, I've said several times if they would come out with a dual sport machine, electric dual sport machine that had, lightweight, 40 horsepower, 300-mile range, I'd probably buy it because it's a real rarity that I spend close to 300 miles in the saddle in a given day. Um, but then, like knowing the electrical engineering side of things, the charging is still, um,
The bottleneck.
yeah, to an extent, unless you can only push 110-volt circuit so far. I mean, it's just as simple as that. There's only so much power that you can sap from a standard wall socket, and but for like a 20-minute moto or something like that, I could see
Yeah,
an
it's good for
electric
that.
bike being a good solution for the reasons that you've described. Noise, um, people have a negative connotation of dirt bikes largely due to the noise.
Yes.
People tend to, from what I've seen at least on YouTube, people really tend to look the other way when it's like a stark varg, um, pulling a wheelie down the street or something like that, because there's really no noise associated with it. It's not disruptive
Yes.
in the way that a 450 or something would be.
Yeah.
I kind of
That's something that you brought up that I really never thought of. Like you were saying, that at a motocross track or a supercross track of that sort, it's where it is. So there's no, if people are going to be there a lot, you're going to get that noise effect every time at that location. It's not like a air scramble or a GNCC where it's moving constantly. I think that's a really good point.
It's adapt or die.
Yeah.
All these racetracks all across the country are being closed on. Dirt tracks, circle tracks for cars, etc.
Yeah.
Drag strips because
Because of noise.
these housing developers will not stop. They will build $400,000 townhouses 100 feet from the start line of your drag strip, and that HOA will push to get you shut down.
Brian, I'd like to get your opinion on something here real quick. So
Sure.
we got a recurring segment on our show that highlights some pretty funny or terrible crashes called "Had to Lay Her Down," and talking about supercross tracks or something that people may not want to go back to. Let's talk about Crashville or Nashville here a little bit there this past weekend. It seemed like that was a really bad,
Brutal.
yeah, a really brutal track. And of course, the big highlight in the story about that was Ken Roxon's shock guy needs fired and Showa stuff is garbage and Suzuki needs to shut down. So I'd like your opinion on that.
Man, it's kind of one of those things. It's been pretty much agreed on by everybody that Nashville design was like the worst track design of the year, and they're doing all this stuff trying to make it safe, trying to keep the factory riders in it all year. You know what I mean? So they came up with these rules this year: no more than 9 whoops and no dragon backs. And I mean, I don't know, maybe it's helping a little bit, but Roxon's freak thing.
Yeah.
We knew what happened. It was it was one of those weird things where we knew what happened before he did.
Yeah.
As soon as he landed, we knew his shock failed, and we just watched it. And I was hoping it wouldn't buck him off, and it did. And now he's got a broken tib, a broken foot, and a broken
got a
toe.
tibial plateau fracture, which is like one of the worst things that you can do leg injury wise, short of a broken femur.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So,
And he's out,
but
and we
they
probably
didn't
won't see him on
surgery.
a Suzuki again, I don't think.
Yeah. I did get a chuckle that I think it was on TikTok. Actually, I was watching it. They slowed the video down and zoomed in, and you could actually see the retaining ring for the shock body falling off and hitting him in the foot as the thing come
That's
apart.
terrible.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
such a
And
freak
Can
thing
you
to
imagine
happen.
though being the shock guy for his team that put that thing together and seeing that happen? You got to feel like the lowest guy on the earth right now.
If I was the shock guy that put that one together, I would be doing my imagining from like Costa Rica or somewhere. I'd have fled the country.
yeah, and who knows what could have happened? Like, it could have been a body failure. They try to make those things as light as possible, and it could have been some kind of metal structural failure. Or it could have been that the valve body fell off, and the valve body came loose from the shaft and jammed up with the shaft, which would have forced the seal head down and popped out the seal clip and just basically blown apart the shock. you really don't know, but that was just, I mean, he lost all his oil and everything all at once. It was I don't know. It just I was kind of, because there's been this thing on Twitter, on X for the last couple years. Everybody hates the new KTM and they just talk smack about the new KTM and how the frame's no good. And I'm on there posting like, all right, where's all the Showa hate from you guys when you see a shock fail on live TV? Like, I don't know. It's just there's a lot of that KTM hate on there. I try to fight back on it some.
It's funny, you get on the forums, you see people talking about, well, KTM frames break, and it's something from like 2004. It's like things have changed a little bit since then. You really need to let go of your preconceived notions about some of these machines.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, I admit, man, I was a KTM hater myself.
I was too.
Yeah, I was too.
I was too. Actually, a lot of our riding club now is running KTMs, and we were all KTM haters for the longest time.
2016 is what changed.
Yeah.
When Dungy moved over, and I rode that next 2016, I was like, wait a second, this is weird. And then I signed on as the tech, and I got to go to Amherst and do the tech schools, and I got to ask the guys, like, why do you do this? I was a Kawasaki guy for 20 years, why do you do this? And they would explain to me why they did the things they did. And I was like, okay, that actually makes sense. They're like anything else. They've got their issues, and so do all the Japanese brands.
Yep, they do. And anybody that thinks otherwise, you're just burying your head in the sand. Every machine you buy has issues. It's just a matter of what you're comfortable with dealing with.
Exactly. Well said, sir.
Ryan, one of the last things I want to ask you, and I kind of do ask this of everybody that we interview, what is your perfect day of riding? What would that consist of?
So a lot of people ask me this question a lot. They ask me, what do you love? Motocross, single track, dual sporting. You seem to do all this. And the older I get with kids and stuff, I spend probably more time riding single track and dual sporting. But I tell everyone this: on a perfect day at a beautiful groomed track like Muddy Creek, for example, or Pro Sport and with Phil, Virginia, or somewhere like that, on a day that the weather's great and the track is prepped and your bike is running good and you've got that flow and you're there with your buddies, I've never felt a better vibe than a day like that riding motocross. The problem is chasing that vibe is so much maintenance and driving and money and upkeep and gate fees and sign-up fees that it's really getting tougher for me to put forth all the effort to get to that. But that's without a doubt my perfect day.
Trevor, you got anything else? No, I think we've covered most of what I wanted to touch on.
Cool, man. Well, stick with us here, Ryan. We're going to go to our segment we mentioned earlier. Had to lay her down.
Did you run into some clippings? Did Barb take the kids? Well, Hoss, maybe you had to lay her down.
All right. Tonight's Had to Lay Her Down. Like we always say, we like to see different types of clippings every single week. So here's some bridge clippings.
Oh, I've seen this one before. Yep.
I've never seen that one. That's good.
On 13 Creeks, there's that one really sketchy bridge.
I do, yeah.
I've been riding through there for at least 5 years now, and I've thought about trying it once or twice, but it probably end up about just the same. I think it's probably pretty rotted by now.
Yeah, I don't know, Brian, if you've seen that stupid Facebook group. It was called Hog Crankers Against Grass Clippings. That's where that one started out.
No, but I've seen all the funny grass clipping memes.
Oh,
about
yeah.
It's same thing.
Yeah, it's so funny how that's ingrained in our riding club now. Like, we'll literally be dual sport ride somewhere, and we're riding down the road, and there'll be some old guy just blowing his grass clippings in the road, and you've got like 13 guys acting like the handlebars are sliding all over the place. We're going, oh, I'm glad I had to lay her down.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
Sure.
anything else you want to talk about? What's for the future for you, bub?
Man, I would just like to, invite everybody to get their parts and accessories from AOMC and remind them that, we're got KTM, Husqvarna, gas.
We lost him there.
No, hang tight.
Hopefully he'll come back.
I mean, to his point, I have ordered stuff from AOMC on several occasions. Shipping was fantastic because they're down in Charleston.
Yep.
They were able to get me stuff that was back ordered at other vendors, and really got me out of a pickle when it came to a busted coolant hose on the Beta that I had at one point. And,
We're back.
I
We're
would
back.
There you are. Yep, you're back.
Yeah, so I just invite everybody to, if you get from AOMC, you're buying online, but you're still supporting, real people in Charleston. So
Lost him again.
I'm got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, so I'm going to be doing a lot of chasing kids around on dirt bikes this year. Definitely want to ride the 701 as much as possible and do some moto as well. So probably look the same as the last few years. Helping AOMC with marketing and just trucking on, man.
Cool, dude. I would also add to that, check out his MXG YouTube channel as well. There's always some great stuff on there.
Yeah.
Riding videos, tips, tricks, you name it. I definitely subscribe to that. And hey, man, we appreciate you coming on here tonight and shooting the breeze with us.
Absolutely, dude. I appreciate that. I really appreciate you guys having me, and I'd love to do it again sometime.
All right, buddy. That sounds good. Well, we thank you all for tuning in tonight. We'll get the little profile page thing figured out so we can stream to our actual
we
group,
will.
and we'll also have these T-shirts available for you guys. And look forward to doing all that. So have a good night, and thanks for tuning in.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.
Heck yeah. Good night.
See you, man.